live.
Hello and welcome to this week's Elevenses. This week we're talking about spring peaks, which if you'll forgive our pun, we're essentially going to cover some of the big trends that are happening from now into the early summer. My name's Rebecca, and I'm joined today by Karan, and we're going to run you through a few of these, and then give you a few of our Google HQ special insights on what you can do to capture these and make the most of them. So, without further ado, I'm going to take us through some of the events that we have mapped out here on a calendar to show you what we think is coming up that you can really look to take advantage of. So as you can see, there's quite a variety of things that are happening in spring 18. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a really interesting time because a lot of our times of year, especially, as you head into Christmas, as we've all just been recovering from the Christmas. There. Yeah. And there's a lot of focus always down to Black Friday or for Christmas Day or Boxing Week for a long while. Whereas as in spring, it's quite a varied pace in terms of there's a lot of bank holidays in there, but also quite a few separate types of events, specifically sporting, a lot of that going on in the mix. So it's an interesting one to talk about some of the behaviors and seasonalities around it. I think to start off with, we're going to talk a bit about Valentine's Day, which kind of predates the calendar I put in here. Mm-hmm. But I think what we'll then do is go through a bit of Mother's and Father's Day, which kind of bookend our calendar here. Then we'll look into Easter. And then the seasonality around Easter and the behaviors we see there. And then the kind of more general spring retail behaviors. And then we'll end up looking a little bit at the Russia World Cup, which is, of course, going to be the biggest consumer event for us this year. And quite the sort of standout, opportunity to kind of capture some of the behaviors there. Yeah. Not forgetting the fact that we have a royal wedding. We haven't put anything in that, but it's sure. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. But it is worth bearing in mind that there's a few little standout events like that happening as well.
Yeah. And I bet a lot of people are planning their holidays just looking at this slide.
I know. Just thinking, how can I somehow kind of capture bank holidays when I'm going away? Anyway, so first off, Valentine's Day. Today is the last day of January. Mm-hmm. Which means that as of tomorrow, everybody's on their 2-week countdown for Valentine's Day. Yes. So one of the key kind of insights that always seems to come out for us on Valentine's Day is the diversification of types of gifts that people are looking to buy. So gone are the days when it's just flowers and chocolates. Mm-hmm. People are actually looking, specifically, as you can see here, millennials love experience days and, buying, kind of tickets and things to events and moments to share together, mm-hmm. Rather than necessarily just a gift on the day. So that's just one thing to bear in mind in terms of if you have products that are slightly more diverse or a bit different to what you might expect. It's really worth thinking that actually this could actually be a good market for you to capture in the next couple of weeks for you there.
Nothing is beating Spa Day in the trends there, though.
No, Spa Day is real high up there. So yeah, spas really need to make sure they can get their vouchers and their packages in place to make sure everyone is noticing them.
All part of experiences.
Exactly. And then actually when we look in terms of the seasonality of how that plays out, probably not very, very much a surprise to anyone, but obviously people have been searching for gifts all throughout January. And as we head into the last 2 weeks here, you can see that basically it starts to pick up, and then sort of 1 week to go, we have that massive kind of leap up again, and then the day before, yes. There's suddenly this kind of spike in everybody searching for things, and perhaps kind of doing a bit of a last minute Larry attempt on the Valentine's Day. That's Karan is a last minute Larry, so
not this time.
Not this time. You're gonna do some research beforehand. Good. So worth bearing in mind that it now really is a good time to start making sure you have all those promotions live, and that you're really kind of prospecting for consumers that are going to be looking to purchase something in the next 2 weeks, really, for this seasonal event.
Just on that, would it be a good idea, even at this point, to have like a look back window of 30 days and create some audience lists? Potentially?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that, if we know already that people will be in that that search behavior from January onwards, I think it is good to kind of use the data you have around who your audience are, either to target that specific audience, that kind of secret visitor that keeps on popping up on your site, to have a little look and think about it, or to build it into something like a similar audiences, or to kind of get that demographic profile and understand a bit more. Perhaps, maybe, so say if you're a spa, for example, maybe all year round, your kind of core demographic is kind of women between the age of, 25 and 60 or something. And that's who your audience are. But actually, this time of year, when it comes to Valentine's Day, and even when it goes into Mother's Day, you might find that you have much more diverse audience, as husbands or children or family members are buying, looking to buy something. And so, just bearing in mind that there might be a bit of a different shift in behavior to what you might normally expect.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, lets you then tailor creative according to what you really want to drive as a message.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Fab. So Valentine's Day. Go.
Now is the time.
Yeah, now is the time. It's in 2 weeks' time. You'll miss it if you don't do anything now. So if we just then move on to some of the spring events that we mentioned at the start there. So it all really kind of kicks off with Mother's Day on the 11th of March. That's my assessment. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, answer in a postcard if it's different. But yeah, when we look at some of the trends around this, it's a really interesting one, because as you can see, 2 in 3 consumers bought gifts in 2016, and 73% of purchases were planned with an average spend of £34, which we found particularly interesting, because when we were thinking about it, that means that people aren't just buying cards and flowers. Like it is a part of it, but if you're spending an average of £34, that means that there is a significant amount of gifting that's going on around this. And as you can see, the spread of different types of products people are buying, according to the Mintel study, you can see it really does range a lot more than just the kind of core of what you'd expect.
Yeah, and also it's interesting, although the average spend is about £34, you still see 40% of that is in gifting overall, and then 20% of flowers still there. Yeah. They're fighting the stain, but I'm guessing it's like the more expensive bouquets and the nicer looking ones this time around that really go off. Yeah,
it did make me feel like I'm probably a bit cheap, in that if I'm not spending £34, then what am I doing? I don't know.
That's what is stuck in our minds.
And so what's actually quite interesting is when you compare it to Father's Day, which is a bit later, kind of bookends the other end of our seasonal calendar there, that actually less, and this once again seems quite unfair, that less people, only half of consumers bought for Father's Day in 2016, and the average spend was £2 lower, it was £32.
I wouldn't want to share this stat with my dad.
Yeah, which seems a bit mean, so let's see if we can bring back Father's Day a bit more.
Bring it at par.
Exactly, equality, that's all. A bit more, but once again, the same type of products that we see here are being purchased, but there's a bit more of a specific emphasis on the apparel and books and DVDs side of things here. So worth bearing in mind that spreads a bit more there. Next up, Easter. So here's a lovely little trends graph that we've put together just to depict the way that Easter is falling this year. So it's very interesting because Easter Sunday is 1st of April. And that is early in comparison to last year. So it's over 2 weeks earlier than last year. And actually, when you see the graph here, we compared it to 2016, 2015. It's much closer to the trends that you would have seen in those years. Right. So the real kind of key insight here is that if you're looking at year-on-year data, make sure you know that everything needs to be 2 weeks earlier this year. So don't expect things to pick up at the same time as last year. It needs to pick up at least 2 weeks earlier. And that's a really important thing, just to make sure that you're kind of like adjusting for the change in the seasonality here.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Good. Glad that is the case. Now, so there's a few kind of little nuggets of insight that we've shared there. What Karan is now going to take us through is a bit more around the behaviors that we see behind that, and how you can be putting a plan in place to really kind of maximize on it.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, Rebecca. 2 weeks out, I think last year, Easter was 16th of April?
Yes.
Was it? And this time it's the 1st of April. So planning 2.5 weeks in advance for how are people going to behave, what's going to be the most important thing. We have a few stats for you here, some research about what people tend to do in and around Easter. Funnily enough, not everyone wants to go on an egg hunting trail.
What?
Yes, surprise, surprise. There are people who are interested in going for a vacation, hosting dinner, of course, roasting it as well, investing in some spring cleaning, DIY activities. So if you are anyone who's related to some of these verticals, or if you manage accounts for people who, or for businesses that are engaged in these activities, Easter is a really good time to get in there.
Yeah, and I think also it's quite interesting because whilst Easter eggs are something you might go, to buy the night before, if you're going to go on holiday, you would have booked and planned that well in advance. So there's different time frames that are associated with the seasonalities here.
Absolutely. If I'm thinking of going on a holiday in April, I would be looking now.
Yeah.
End of January, beginning of Feb, I know I really need to get things in order, all my plans, book my vacation. So it is important to know these things happen. Moreover, just on the day of Easter, and these are trends from 2016, very relevant to what's going to happen in 2018 as well. A lot of people want to go out, have more family time, out and about, get things done, even with kids. So there are lots of people, if you offer any experiences, I think we are talking a lot about experiences in gifting and generally what families want to engage in as well. There's massive spike around Easter time and things to do with kids, like you can see on the screen, about 250% growth in queries just around Easter. One of my favorite ones is what to do today. I ask that every weekend. Is 180%. So lots of activities, experience-based things you get out there. I remember, Bex, we were doing some research earlier, and just 2 weeks before Easter, people looking for day trips or short trips within the UK, people who live in the UK looking for trips within the UK, almost see a 200% increase.
Yeah, exactly. And more people are looking for ideas. They don't necessarily have the fixed idea of what they want to do or where they want to go. So it's a real big opportunity to almost kind of present what the solution to what they're looking to do with their family or with their friends, and kind of give that to them. It's in line with the searches and the increase that they're seeing here. Yeah,
and there's no better value than providing answers to the biggest questions in someone's life, and especially for local businesses. I think this is a great opportunity around Easter. Of course, with the arrival of spring, a lot of other things pick up. Everyone's really excited about now. Finally, there's some sunshine. It's bright. Days are longer. Yeah. So barbecues pick up about 37%. Everyone's trying to get their gardens back in order. Of course, all the cleaning and everything then goes out. You need some furniture as well. So everything around, interestingly, rain gear goes up as well by 16%, because as unpredictable as it is.
That's how it is in the UK. We kind of expect it's nice and sunny, but it could rain at any moment. So you want to be prepared.
So you want to be prepared. You want to get your outdoor deck all set up, but you want to make sure that you have the poncho on as well.
Exactly. All eventualities.
And with that, one of the things that Bex absolutely loves is the correlation that we found in the outdoor vertical, which is everything from garden furniture, home and garden DIY, that kind of stuff. It peaks at the same time as the mercuries.
The temperature.
Yeah, they're going up. What's that about?
Well, it's fantastic. So what we've basically done here is we've aligned with historical data. So this is over the course of, I think, 2 years here. Yeah, you can see the two peaks there.
Yeah.
And it shows that when you map temperature against the query within the outdoor vertical, that there is quite a common alignment between what people are searching for and when the weather is. And in fact, the peak in queries comes just before the peak in temperature. So it's almost like people are looking like at the 10-day weather forecast. When they see it's going to be a good weekend, then that's bam, where they're going to go and buy the barbecue, the outdoor furniture, that kind of stuff. Like, I think this is a really great, interesting insight because, in my career, I've worked with a number of outdoor furniture clients. As we saw on the last slide, it was a 71% year-on-year. 71% growth around springtime for outdoor furniture queries. What my experience working with that sub-vertical has been that, they basically plan and predict when they think that first weekend of good weather is going to be in the spring. And they know that is the weekend everybody goes out and buys everything they want for their garden. People just sort of lose all sense of themselves and just get everything that weekend. So basically, if you're you know, missing it, or you don't have enough stock in the warehouse to fill it, or you don't have enough budget in your campaigns, you're effectively going to be missing out on the sale for that spring peak.
So that's a big insight to take home.
Big one to
3 months right now to go, because I see it's around week 14 or week 15, the data that we have for 2 years, and week 15, I'm guessing, is the first week of April. Yeah,
so we basically put in red, haven't we, the sections there that relate to the Easter period, to show that that's essentially where it kind of starts to kind of really kind of like start peaking.
Massive peak there.
Yeah.
Good one to plan out for, like you said, also about your inventory, not just your campaigns and everything.
Yeah, well, that was the other side of the thing as well, is you know, not just about kind of like getting people to the site, but just making sure that then the entire business is ready to kind of capture the demand that is going to be coming in. You know, can you fulfill the orders and deliver it in the timeframes that you've, you know, kind of sold it at? So it's a big one to plan for.
Great insight. Great. Thank you. Just moving on, when people are looking for things, where do they turn to? According to our research, of course, 79% want to search on Google and find answers. Interestingly enough, 64% would also turn to YouTube to be safe that what they're buying has been tested, has been reviewed, or they can get a look and feel, a virtual look and feel as well of, you know, the decision that they're going to make. Of course, across all these, there are options for you to be able to have the right message and get campaigns together. Speak to your account manager, I would say, at Google, and get your strategies in order as well. To sum it all up, what do you really need to do around this time for the spring peak? First of all, launch activity well ahead. We know people are planning, get your audience lists in order, make sure that you have the early bird interest as well captured in, give them some special offers, discounts as well, because if you start late, you're going in at a very high price point as well. At the same time, plan for behaviors. Like you said, if your general audience for spa packages is usually females between the age of 20 to 65, now it might change because there's gifting involved, there are massive events coming up, Mother's Day, Father's Day as well. So be prepared for that. Let's not turn a blind eye and be operating in silos. The last one is be mobile centric, because when people are out and about, they really are using their phones. Needless to say, in the UK, mobile queries are higher than desktop queries as we speak today as well. So very important for you to be focusing on it, and even if you're planning for your clients something to get in order. So if you have these three things together, springtime is going to be happy time for your campaigns as well.
Springtime is going to be happy time. Yes.
Before we sum it up, I think, Bex, there's something very important about the World Cup.
Yes, I just like to take this moment to talk a bit about the World Cup. So the World Cup, it's what, once every 4 years? No. Yeah? Yes. Once every 4 years, I said confidently. It's once every 4 years, and it just means that it's a real standout consumer event, because I think for me, like the biggest kind of assumption or mistake that I tend to find people make is that they assume it's something that only involves one or two kind of key brands that are perhaps sponsoring it, as opposed to the wider kind of behaviors that are happening around this time whenever the tournament occurs. So we know that is the biggest sporting moment. That, you know, in 2014, 3 billion people watched the World Cup. That's massive. And that means that people are watching these matches, you know, whatever time of day it is, based upon where the location is. This year's obviously in Russia, so there's going to be a bit of behavior there around time frames of people kind of watching the matches. I think it kind of falls in line with like commuting time, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of a trends perspective. But really, when we look at it from a YouTube perspective, it's really very interesting in terms of like the explosion of the type of content that we're seeing on the platform around football, around sport in general.
Right.
So in particular, if you look at the almost 200% year-on-year growth that we've seen in video content uploaded for our kind of top football partners. So we have some kind of creators, and then obviously the kind of official channels themselves. And there really is a kind of expansion in the amount of content and that they're uploading and they're dedicating to the YouTube platform. But with that, obviously, comes watch time. So we're actually seeing from 2014 to 2016 a 260% growth in watch time of sport on YouTube. So people are really turning to it as a screen kind of beyond TV to get either to kind of watch it live or to kind of get the highlights or the kind of creator kind of stories that go behind it. So it is quite an interesting one to have a think about from that perspective. Like I think this is one of my favorite slides because it really just shows that with something like the World Cup, it isn't actually just about the kind of brand messages that you're delivering for this. It's actually about the quite large range of consumer that you'll see that gets involved in it. So you have everyone from the fanatic lunatic who, you know, will be able to give you the odds on every single team, you know, straight off the bat. For us now, right down to people that are just slightly curious in something that they might have seen on social media, or they're kind of dragged down the pub with their mates or something like that. And that just means that everybody's behavior is going to be shifting around this time. And that's something that you can take advantage of. So whether that is delivering a high-end kind of brand message, or whether perhaps it is just, you know, running a promotion in your, you know, on your kind of online or in store that kind of just taps into the kind of World Cup fever, there really is a lot of different options that you can do here.
Yeah, and this is really top of mind for everyone. Like, as you can see across this arc, it's just not everyone who loves the sport, but anyone who loves being involved when their country is like playing a high stakes game as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And interesting, there's a lot of data as well we have around, even if England do not make it past a few rounds,
which won't happen.
Which won't happen, obviously. But if it were to happen, that actually consumers in the UK still remain engaged in the World Cup tournament as a whole. So it's actually not limited to the success of England in the World Cup, which I think is interesting to know. But anyway, this is just a little teaser on it because we're actually with a lot of conversations going on in Google right now about this. So do expect to see something from your account manager on this and have conversations around the different types of strategies you can take to really kind of capture this event as it plays out from kind of, pun intended, from June and into July there. But that is it for us today. Yes. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us. Like I say, the best course of action for yourself is to get in contact with your account manager, ask them questions on you know, some of the trends we've spoken about here, but also put in place that audience plan to make sure you can capture the spring peak behaviors that we've identified here. So it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me. And start now to succeed in spring.
Bye.